Yeah, it is.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is 6:30, so I welcome everyone to the District 3 Advisory Board for Wednesday, January 3rd. And we are going to start with an approval of the agenda for January 3rd, 2024.
Second.
So I have a motion, I cannot think. I have a motion by Michael Loop and a second by Richard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And then I will ask for approval of the minutes for December 6th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Loop, a second by Ms. Ruth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to staff reports, and first up we have
Not here, but there have been fire sirens for the last 2 hours up
Okay.
and down the street, so I was.
so what we're gonna do is we'll go on to WPD. Yeah, because I see we have WPD online, and if fire comes in, then we'll catch them on the flip side.
Hello, this is Officer Jensen, and I'm over 26 feet over there by Pawnee and Hydraulic area. Sorry about that. Just a few things I wanted to touch on tonight. Obviously, we just got through the holidays, and holidays were very good. All the programs and special assignments and things that we did were very successful. We were able to, bless a lot of families' lives and get out in the community and interact in a very positive way, which was awesome. With the holidays now being over, obviously we're geared up and preparing to continue to push forward and doing activities and special assignments to help continually addressing the crimes and things like that. And the things that we've been doing, I believe have been working. Statistically, we're looking really good. We're actually down in pretty much every major category, which is a very positive trend. We're hoping to continue to push that. One reminder is it's getting cold and a winter storm is coming, is do not leave your vehicles running to warm them up and then go inside your house. People are continuing to look for those, and we've had several auto thefts due to that exact scenario. Our team specifically is actually preparing to work a special assignment with our violent crimes unit and our narcotics unit to address some recent incidences that have occurred. Can't get into all the details, obviously, but we've been able to identify some specific subjects and are looking to address those issues. Currently in the academy, we have just over 20 officers that are going to be graduating the 18th of this month. We're really excited to get them out on the streets and get them trained up there. And they graduate the 18th, and then on the 22nd, we have 35 recruits starting the new class. So it's a bigger class, and we're really excited about that as well, to get them through and be able to start replenishing the streets and the officers there. So that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the staff? David, any questions online?
No questions for me.
Okay, any questions from the public?
He's doing a good job. Keep it up.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot.
Well, thank you so much for everything you do. We appreciate your service, and try to stay with you this week.
Yes, thank you very much. You guys have a great one.
Thank you.
Dude, thank you, sir.
We will move on then. I still don't see fire, so we'll move on to the library.
All right, awesome. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I am Robin Douster from the Wichita Public Library. We wanted to first go over our Westlink branch remodel. I know a lot of people have been super excited about that. It will be having its groundbreaking on Thursday, January 4th, which is tomorrow. And then construction will begin, and it's going to double the size through an expansion. And you can follow along on our website for updated info. And then we also wanted to go over RFID tags. They are little stickers, little white stickers about, maybe an inch by 2 inches, who have been inserted into each book. And they're in the back cover, and they don't store any public information. All they store is the barcode information. And it just makes it easier to check out. So if you're using our self checks, instead of placing every single barcode and trying to get that just perfect, you can just place a whole stack of books on it and it'll read each of them. And if you have any questions, just talk to a staff member and we can give you a short tutorial. The 2024 Read ICT Challenge kicked off on December 31st. We have a very cute video with some of our librarians and Suzanne Perez doing a kickoff video with the Kansas Humane Society and some of the pets there. It encourages participants to read 12 books from 12 categories in 12 months, and more info is available on our website is wichitalibrary.org/readict. And then in February, the libraries going to explore contributions Black Wichitans have made to our city. Celebrating Wichita's Black history will take place 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. every Thursday from February 1st to the 29th at Advanced Learning Library. And then our packet enclosed goes a little bit more in depth over the Westlink branch remodel and about the new community services librarian positions, of which I am one at the Walters branch. My coworker Parker Daniel is our new community service librarian for District 1 in Angelou. And I'm based out of, like I said, Walters at 4195 East Harry. The best way to contact me, if you need to, is rdowster@wichita.gov. I can also be reached at the library's phone number. Please contact me to schedule any events about library resources. If you'd like to have me or the library at your event, or suggestions for library programming. And then also enclosed in the packet is some of the programming that we have going on shortly, including January 9th, we will restart Family Storytime from the winter break. And it will be every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. So look forward to that as well. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions from the DAB?
Yeah,
Yes. Mr.
where is the Westlink branch? Where's it located in the city?
Westlink.
It is on Beekemeyer, in the west side. I forget which district it is, near Tyler and Tyler and does anybody know the other cross street? I am blanking on it.
I'm just gonna make a suggestion. I know you can get online and find all this stuff, but when we talk certain areas, maybe put the address so people want to drive by or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the DAB? Okay, questions from the public? All right, seeing none. Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. All right, moving on to the public agenda. We have no scheduled public agenda items this month. Is there anybody that would like to speak on off-agenda items?
Not exactly speak, but there's a new homeless camp, or maybe not new, down just before you go over the bridge on 31st, I'm sorry, on Broadway, Railroad Bridge. You go up there, clear down on that far South corner, pretty nice little encampment there.
31st.
And no, not 31st. You know where All Parts Auto Salvage is?
Yeah.
Take that driveway, which surprises me because the police go back in there a lot, it seems like, but
Okay,
there's pretty good sized tent farm there.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I want to make a comment to that. If you get on 135 at Hydraulic and look over there towards the sewer plant, if somebody go down there and tell them people if they clean the place up and provide some trash can, people probably wouldn't care near as much. But it's so damn trashy down there that people coming in from out of state, going up to Nebraska, they all look over and see that. It was a bad sight to us.
I wouldn't worry about that if they're going to Nebraska.
Okay, so we'll move on with that. We'll move on to new business. Agenda item number 6. So we have CON 2023-00071 and CON 2023-00065.
Yes, good evening. My name is Brad Etherly. I'm a senior planner with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department.
Hey, Brad, do you want to come over here to the
Yes, I didn't see that.
microphone so people can see you and hear you better?
I'll start.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Brad Etherly. I'm a senior planner for the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. We are discussing case ZON 2023-00071 and CON 2023-00065. This site is a 1.05 acre lot on the east side of South Broadway at 4204 South Broadway. You can see the map right there. And the applicant is requesting 3 things for this particular case. He's requesting a zone change from property zone SF5, LC, and GC, single family residential, limited commercial, and general commercial to LI, limited industrial. If you can scroll down, Rebecca, to the zoning map. Lots of colors, that's it. You can see that each of these properties have several different zoning districts attached to them. And so they're requesting to just turn all of those into LI, limited industrial. And then the reason they're doing this is to receive a conditional use to permit a wrecking/salvage yard for the entire subject site. And then the last thing that they're asking for is a waiver request for supplementary use regulation that would allow the conditional use despite abutting both an arterial street, which is South Broadway, and the freeway, which is the interchange there, or 135 and 235 meet up. One of the things that the code says is that wrecking and salvage yards can't abut either one of those two, so they're asking for that waiver. Some other things that those supplementary use regulations include are that, in the opinion of the planning commission, it won't adversely affect the character of the neighborhood, and that it would be enclosed by a fence or wall not less than 8 feet in height and having cracks and openings not in excess of 5% of the area of the fence or wall. It is also subject to supplementary use regulation that would prohibit the baling of junk, scrap, paper, bottles, rags, or similar materials that are prohibited in the limited industrial district. The applicant would be required to come into compliance with screening, lighting, and landscaping standards from the Unified Zoning Code and the Wichita Landscape Ordinance, meaning that a minimum 6-foot solid screening fence where it abuts single-family residential zoning. So you can see here, this is the SF5 portion of the zone that's bordered to the north and the south by that as well. So they would have to screen that from those residential zonings. The applicant is proposing that the property be mainly used as a vehicle storage yard, but that if any inoperable vehicles are on the site, that they're only there temporarily. They have also provided a site plan that shows the east 100 feet of the property to be clear of any vehicle storage or salvage yard. Rebecca, I don't know if you can scroll down a little bit. Right here. So you can see here that they would not have any vehicle storage or salvage with that 100-foot buffer to the interchange there. All parking areas, loading areas, and driveways will be required to be surfaced with concrete, asphaltic concrete, asphalt, or other comparable surface, and shall be maintained in good condition, free of weeds, dust, trash, and other debris. Let's see here. Any unplatted portions will need to be platted before any building permits are issued. Character of the neighborhood is mostly light industrial with some residential nearby. Manufactured home parks are directly across from the site to the west across South Broadway. I don't know if you can go to the aerial version, scroll one more, I think. No, one more. There we go. So you can see the manufactured home park to the west. There's also another one just to the north over here. And then across the freeway, outside of the picture is another one that's well over 450 feet away because of the interchange. Rebecca, if you could scroll down to the growth map, which is that one right there. The requested vehicle sales use is in partial compliance with community investments plan, which identifies the subject property as appropriate for new employment, commercial and residential. And staff believes that the subject site is located in an industrial underutilized portion of the city, and the recommended conditions should mitigate substantial detrimental impacts to the surrounding area. This area is also in this South Wichita Hayesville map. You can scroll down one, right there, you can see the arrow pointing towards it. This map would say that this area is appropriate for commercial retail development. And even though the South Wichita Hayesville plan does say that, we still feel like this area is okay for this kind of use. If you can scroll down to the pictures, Rebecca. Yeah. So here we are, we're looking east into the properties, and we're kind of in the middle of the property, looking back towards the back. Scroll down. Looking north on Broadway, looking south, and then we're looking across Broadway to the mobile home park. And then we want, nope, that's it. So based upon information available, staff does recommend that the request be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and this recommendation is based on the golden rules. Staff has received no public comments on this application, and the MAPC did hear this case and recommended approval on December 28th. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Questions from the DAB? Any questions? Oh, you got
Did you mention I'm gonna pave the whole thing too?
They won't have to pave the whole thing, but wherever they're going to have driveways or parking spots, they'll have to have some sort of asphalted concrete or asphalt. Wherever they place vehicles that are towed to the site, they'll have to probably have some sort of some sort of surface that will mitigate some of the stormwater or something like that.
For environmental concerns,
I go around on the bypass and I look at this area quite a bit. There's already junk cars back in there, and there's no fence around them. There's junk mobile homes. They've been there 10, 15 years. What's gonna keep them from continuing that?
Well, so they will have to meet those conditions that are listed in the report. Part of this will have to go through a building permit application as well. If they do not do any of the things that are listed in the report, or don't meet some of those supplementary use regulations, then it would be a code violation that would require a complaint.
That would require a complaint.
Yes.
I'm good at that.
This is why we track conditional uses now.
Yes.
Why win?
any other questions, comments from the DAB? Questions or comments from the public?
Well, of course.
I can.
Go ahead.
And the agent is here as well.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Phil Meyer with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. Also with me here tonight, Ray Rose is online, AJ Pickering, both with TOW ICT are here, which will be the operators of this facility. very simply, and part of the challenge of this zone change application is our present zoning ordinance and what we've got to ask for. And so to be able to do this, we've got to ask for wrecking and salvage. We don't want to do wrecking and salvage. So what we've done, all we are looking to do is store vehicles that are towed on this site. So normally, if there's an accident and a vehicle is towed, it typically would go straight to a body shop. There are some occasions where it would come back to this site if it's inoperable. It would be parked there short term. If somebody has parked their car illegally somewhere and it's asked to be towed, then it would be towed back to the site. So we're looking to store towed vehicles on a short-term basis. We don't want to do wrecking and salvage. So what we've done with the conditional use permit is we've asked for wrecking and salvage, then we've eliminated the ability to do wrecking and salvage as a use as part of the conditional use permit. So if I can have you go back to the site plan for us. Eric, that's perfect. So phase one is the western portion of the site. No, it's hard to hear me when I do this, but this is the fenced area where we will be storing the vehicles, and we'll have to make those solid. So again, with our zoning ordinance, if you're along an arterial, which is Broadway or the highway on the back, you're not allowed this use. So we put built in the buffer along the west or along the east side. Along Broadway, if you notice where those fences are and where we will be storing, we're 300 foot back off of Broadway, where the actual vehicles will be stored and screened with that. So we're not right up on Broadway with that use. With that, I'm probably going to stop and answer the questions that you have for us.
From the aerial photograph, satellite photograph,
Yes, sir.
can you point out there where the vehicles would be stored?
Yes, sir. So there's a fence there. And then, so we are required anywhere where we're driving and parking, and, you know, you gotta have parking for occupancy of a building. Anywhere where we're storing the vehicles we have, per the staff report, we have to have an all-weather surface.
Not necessarily asphalt or concrete.
Correct.
It could be what, crushed gravel or,
One can't be crushed gravel because that creates dust, but it could be millings on top of crushed gravel or some surface that fire departments kind of determined what all weather surfaces are. Yes, sir.
Two questions. How long have you been in business, and has this been your location the whole time?
No, we're looking to move. Are you operating at this location now?
So he's currently had something else set up there before. So I don't know exactly what all he's had. He's moving all that stuff out of there.
How long have you been business?
The towing company's been in business for a year now.
Okay,
So,
you see a lot of trucks around, I just,
yeah, the original business started off as we owned CarStar body shops in town. So it's kind of just developed on its own over the time. So
thank you.
you own
So
car
we're
what?
looking for a location.
CarStar.
Okay.
Looking for a location to move.
I looked it up online, it said it was 4202 that was a tow ICT, so this is an expansion of what you've already started, correct?
Yeah, correct. So the 4202 is on the, if you're looking at the picture on the top side.
Okay, and I deal with cars like this, okay? Because I have to date two rebuilders, okay? So, what time limit, what time frame are you gonna give us that those are all gonna be moved? I mean, because I know body shops get behind. And I see park places that they sit there and sit there, and if that sits there and sits there, what guarantee do we have that that's not gonna be enough, and you guys are gonna go back into that 1,000?
So our intention is to move it as quickly as possible. So if we can get this set up and going, then we do what's called the impound process. It's about 2 weeks. You have to have notification trying to get it moved out of there to follow the proper chains and procedures if it's not getting fixed. At the same time, you know, CarStar, we've got We had an east and a west location. As of last year, we opened up downtown. We took over 2 buildings downtown and we're actively looking for our 5th location to keep going. So that industry has changed and evolved because they sold, the other local guys sold, and these big MSOs have come in, big corporate stores. So more big box, they don't have that local feel where they can call and say, hey, AJ, I've got this problem at a shop, you know, and that's where we've expanded at a faster rate than we would have expected. So we want them fixing and getting through. We're making money. And when they're not, we want to get them impounded and out of our way as quick as possible.
I just don't want to see that area go to all salvage yards. And there's another one up the street from, another tow place up the street.
It will over time.
Because it seems that it was at 71st Street and now it's moving farther north.
Any other questions from the dad?
Does MAPC, this is, I guess, I don't know if you know this, but maybe, the city people might.
Between Brad and I, we can answer.
You probably. Is MAPC involved in, the development of neighborhood plans?
No.
Well, essentially, they also make a recommendation to the city council or to the county commissioners if it's that jurisdiction. And eventually the governing body would make the decision on any plans. The planning department kind of works on it, planning commission reviews it, makes a recommendation to the city council to either approve and make, amendments or whatever.
So they do have that role in recommending approval or not of a plan. But this is a city
Oh,
plan.
you mean like a building permit type of?
No, I'm talking about the plan that they are always not looking at when they approve these things. The,
This is for people or?
no, South Wichita Hayesville area plan.
Right.
Yes.
I, as a planning commissioner, have sat on several neighborhood plans, but I'm kind of an exception rather than the rule, because for the most part, I've volunteered to sit on some of those neighborhood plans, but I don't generally see other planning.
It's not an official part of the process, the workflow,
It's
that
not.
there has to be a check here.
It's not.
Okay.
And which is why I like to sit there and be a part of those plans if I can, so I can figure out, what the desire is of
Yeah.
the neighborhoods that are putting those plans together.
So there do you think there's I just see this a lot where plans are like, yeah, it's a plan, but we're gonna do this anyway, even though it's totally against the will of the people that put the plan together. So is there like some sort of contention?
Danny, to the question,
Plan?
A
I
plan-
don't think this fits in that plan because I was in on all that planning. The biggest thing was car lots and salvage yards
Right,
And mobile home parks.
and mobile home parks.
and which is.
I too was a member of that ad hoc task force that created the South Wichita Hayesville plan.
And what, so.
What he says is correct.
A plan is just a plan. There's no guarantee that it'll happen or anybody will stick. That's what.
The plan can
That is the-
sometimes be, a perfect world, yes, we would like to see what the plan calls for, but then there's also reality that sets in sometimes. And, we have to kind of balance what's being proposed, because right now, nothing is being proposed for retail in that area. It doesn't look like anything is going to be anytime soon. And so something has been proposed. We've taken a look at it and said, yes, with the surrounding area, we feel that it's appropriate.
That's the only question.
Yes.
What is gonna be done to keep the oil and gas from getting into the groundwater? Since it's not gonna be paved, it'll just be something similar.
Well, I will maybe defer also to Phil here, but I think that whenever they are providing anything to the MABCD, there will have to be environmental concerns that are addressed so that, that's pretty standard practice.
There are enforcement issues now. I can't give you the quantities, but most wrecked vehicles will go straight to will be dropped off at a body shop, not hauled down to here. There are times or situations, depending on the time it happens, for insurance issues or not insurance issues or something where vehicles may end up down here, but that's rare that inoperable vehicles will land in that yard, but it can happen, and that's why we've got to ask for that. So.
I guess I just have to ask, if it's so rare, why did they need additional property to put more store cars on?
I'm talking.
I'll give you the answer. I mean, you can go, we have, Lebanon Central is the one location. Downtown is our other location. I can't store cars outside overnight downtown. They constantly get broken into. I had them inside a building. They broke in the building and stole 7 wrecked cars out of the building. Our west side locations at Tyler and Kellogg. I have a Cowboy Motel on one side. I have a liquor store on the other side.
Yeah.
It's constantly broken into.
Yeah.
This is the safest area to temporarily store cars as we're processing and moving everything
So
through.
you can't find any land around Webb and Central?
We have land at Weapon Central and there's just not enough room there.
Now, when you're going through this process, did they mention this plan, this South Wichita Hayesville area plan?
I don't know if I was privy to the,
Did they ever mention it to you that you were going to set up a business in a place where the people didn't want the business? They never mentioned that to you?
Well, it's in
I don't think any-
the
so I don't think any, I know, no one's given me any pushback
Okay.
as far as that's concerned.
So welcome to California now.
staff. That's the first notice of that. It's
First notice is the staff report.
And I'm not the notification here.
And that, and did you get the staff report? Do you get the staff report?
I believe, yeah, I mean,
That's my role for him as agent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anybody, I need to finish with, is there anybody else from the DAB that has any comments or questions before I go to the public? Okay. Are you sure? I just want to make sure, because I don't want to do this back and forth, because really
One
we should
more.
go to the DAB and then go to the public, and then we should come back to.
One
make a
more.
decision.
South 135 highway, people can park up there and come right over that back fence and steal. You said there's not a lot of theft. I know that happens all the time. There are other tow places I've watched. I drove past and watched people going over their fence.
that very well could be, no one has shared that at this point, so.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the public then. Yes.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. How many cars are you putting in the first phase? Or are you planning?
We don't have a plan to put any number of cars in there at
If
all.
they're police tow, you have to hold them for so long, and you have to have a big enough yard to hold so many cars. I don't know what that is now. But I do know that you have to have so many cars. So is the end result planning on going to the back after you get the front done?
Something got out of hand, but there's no need to run and develop anything there now.
Well, and I understand that, and I'm not totally opposed to you putting your record service in, but you know, it's one thing to plan on 25, 30 cars max versus 200 cars max. I do know that the city requires you to have a big enough yard to hold so many cars. I don't know what that is anymore.
The current lot would meet the expectation now. It's set up there now.
The question is, are you going to be on the police rotation?
There is a possibility to be on the police rotation, yes.
You gotta get a big enough
Then
yard.
you don't have control over how many you get.
No.
So I can take a shot at that answer.
Go ahead, take a shot.
AJ can correct me anytime he wants. I'm good with that. So phase one, we see phase one lasting this thing for the next 2 to 5 years. I don't know how long it's going to take before we need phase two. At the same time, when we go to phase two, we may not use all of phase two. And you say, why wouldn't you want to? Because we have to fence it and we have to put all weather material down. So we've written this in a way that if we want to use and you can go back to the site plan if it helps you, but if we want to use the west third or the west quarter of phase two, we can expand back that far. If we want to use the half of phase two, we can expand back that far. So our expansions into phase two will happen proportionately to the need. Whether we're going to need all of phase two I don't know, in 20 years.
Financially, really
Ever
hope not.
need
We want that moving and
All
going.
the phase two.
I'm not totally negative, okay?
That's fair.
Zoning process, we just thought we might as well at least zone enough so we can start into phase two.
Okay. Okay, I was accused of being a historian tonight, so I'll go ahead and start from there. Obviously, GNR Truck Salvage across the street has been gone for quite some time. They were 68 years and closed up. And so it's now Larry Cook and a towing company and a repo company and building a building. That's all well and good. The problem, two problems that I see is, first of all, 8-foot screening fence doesn't do a thing when the highway's higher than that. You can get right down onto it. Doesn't do a thing. Is the property immediately to the south that was the big pink square in there, is that where Family Motors was? The Don Hatton family?
Yeah. It's still
Okay,
there.
so the cars that are being crushed there have nothing to do with you?
No, that's.
Because there was an immense number of derelict cars there while they were open and for quite some time after they closed. And I see within the last week, those are being crushed and stacked, so they'll be being removed. The problem that always comes up is, I appreciate the man from zoning, well, they have to be compliant. But there is no proactive action from zoning to go in and say, are you compliant today? The only time they ever show up is if somebody from the public goes, you sure they can do this? And they may send one of the 2 inspectors out to look and say, no, they shouldn't, and that's about it. But let's go further north there where Tow Service Incorporated and whatever, you said those 3 tow lots are, and where the, was it Pete DeRee's nursery? I believe, that you said bought that property. His name again, the Ferris, Greg Ferris, came in here, represented him when he came in for a zoning change. We were told, and I was on the DAB at that time, we were told that there's not going to be any salvaging there. You know, they may take, change a tire or something like that, but they're not going to be doing any salvaging. He just needs a place to store the cars, and this is an exact quote, hold his little auctions. Well, it came out here recommended, because, what am I going to do? I can't, I can't exclude myself because I don't have a direct interest. But anyway, then it goes and gets approved. And he's on the phone the next day to other tow companies in town bragging that he's going to have the biggest salvage yard in Wichita, which he does. And then Ferris comes out, represents him again for another expansion, clear back to 235, and that's approved. So, and now you drive down 235 and you look right down in his place where his car crusher and all his hooks and all his salvage cars and all that is. And I don't really have a problem with that because that's a going concern. It's a business that pays taxes, employs people, and provides a service to the community. No problem, as long as it's done reasonably well. The thing that really is a crisis in my mind, has happened all the time when I was on DAB. Here we are, MAPC's already approved it. Why is it even at DAB? Doesn't make any difference what you decide. It's already done. And that's just how this program seems to work far too often.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I really feel like the process is defective. There's nothing wrong with you asking. But the process of approval and subsequent follow-up, are you doing what you were supposed to be doing, is highly defective.
Well, 3
And
minutes
for-
of elapsed. So
Huh?
3 minutes of elapsed.
Okay, so I can't say anything about salvage and towing being separated into 2 different categories. Sorry.
Is there anybody else from the public that wants to speak on this?
I do want to say something. Sorry, I'm here for something else, but I did insurance for a number of years and we worked with CarStar. Back when I was involved with insurance companies, and they've been a very reputable company the
Yep.
entire time. And understanding the need that they have not to enter another realm of business, but to be able to further grow their operations as a locally owned company since all the rest have sold out. I think you guys are sitting on a good opportunity to promote local companies versus corporate, larger companies that have come in and taken over the body shop world. And again, I can tell you from several years of working with them through the insurance repair shop that they are a great company. And I think there's there's a reason why MAPC, we don't have it in our town, but there's a reason why you have these commissions like that help build in the safeguards to keep those zoning regulations up to date. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
This is Ray Rose. Can you hear me? Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Sorry, I had everybody on mute and I kind of got sick and wanted to keep you guys from having to deal with me. So I threw AJ to the wolves. He probably doesn't have quite as much information as I do because I've dealt with this more. So any questions you have, like you've talked a little bit about our neighbor down there that has had cars there for 15 to 20 years. Trees have grown through them. Absolute disaster. That's not the kind of operation we run or run. I mean, it's absolutely not. And as far as how many square foot, you have to have 15,000 square foot to be on the rotation, and we're well past that. So with the area that we have, I'm always an optimist, so that's why we even asked for phase 2. Because there is the possibility of up at one point in time long ago, there was up to 115 cars on that lot. I don't see that we could ever, I don't think we'll ever grow past that. But we definitely wanted to ask for the option instead, as far as the phase 2, but there's, like Phil said, there's so many compliances that we'll have to do. It'll be so costly. It'll have to be economically feasible, which currently in any time in the near future will not be. So, and again, any questions that you guys have, feel free to answer or feel free to ask. I have a little bit more information, but AJ and Phil did a great job representing me. I'm sorry that I wasn't there to cough in your face.
All right, I'm gonna bring it back to the DAB for action.
I have a couple of questions real quick.
Oh, sorry, David.
So what is your current employment number? Like how many staff do you have currently?
We're at 4 currently.
Okay, and with this future expansion, what is your growth potential for employing people?
We're looking at 8 to 10, probably in a reasonable, if we get on the city rotation, 8 to 10 is definitely going to be, it's going to be necessary in the first 6 to 8 months of next year. Probably max, you're looking long-term 12 to 13.
Okay, and then is there going to be any full-time staff that's going to be manning that lot during business hours or overnight?
Yes, there has to be, and we already have somebody there, even though we're not on the rotation. We do have somebody there that's 8 to 5. When we get on the rotation, it'll have to be 7 to 7.
And what kind of security procedures are you going to have other than the fencing? Are you going to have like a security alert, or if you see somebody moving on the lot, that you can respond in a timely manner?
We're going to go, of course, we have to have it lit. We're going to have to, we have to do the lighting, and we're going to do security cameras on top of that, just because our exposure, these vehicles will transfer through there quite quickly, because most of them will come in and either go to a shop, as AJ and Phil has said, or they will go to a salvage. So the purpose of this location is to move cars through, not to store them. But because of the way the zoning regulations state, for me to put an immobile vehicle by there, it has to be zoned south. That's why we went this path. But as far as the vehicle sitting there for a long period of time is definitely not an issue. And there is a set of processes you have to go through for an abandoned vehicle that takes about 2 weeks to a month to go through. So, I mean, I can't say that we're going to have cars there 3 or 4 days, because that's not going to be the case. There's going to be some that set a month, some that set 6 weeks, but not longer than that.
One more question, Mr. Rose. Would you be willing to come back in about a year's time to give the DAB an update of your facility and your growth potential?
I'd love to at any point in time. I'd love to at any point in time. And I as far as the concern, I totally understand the concern, because I see it all around us down there of people that are zoned and just let stuff fall apart. I'm fine with setting up every 6 months. I'll come report. I have no problem with being very transparent about what we're doing, why we're doing it. I'm not going to be down there selling catalytic converters. I mean, that's just not, it's not what we do. We want to be a good member of the community, a good steward of the neighborhood. We don't want to be, we have no desire to do anything but what's best for the community and the neighborhood and for the bigger Wichita area. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Your answer is yes. Sorry, I went a little too long.
All right, now I'm gonna bring it back to the DAB for action.
Make a motion that we approve the request.
A second.
Yeah, I have a motion by Mr. Loop and a second by Jesse. All in favor, say aye.
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 oppose? Any opposed? I'm gonna oppose. I can vote because I wasn't at the planning commission, so
You did what?
I can vote.
You're not on planning commission anymore?
I wasn't at the meeting last
Aha.
time. Okay, so motion carries, whatever.
6-1.
6-1, thank you. Okay, let's move on to, the LW Flat Park project thing. Seventy-one.
6-1, am I, can't vote.
Oh.
It's okay, I just had to tell council member two.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I'm here. Keep the process going.
Thank you for being here.
Work by chance?
It's supposed to, yeah.
Supposed to, okay.
So easy.
Okay, sure, you can try.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Great. My name's Tim Kellums. I'm the landscape architect and principal planner for the city of Wichita. Giving you an update on LW Clap master plan implementation improvements. I think I remember most of your faces. I was here in June of last year, so it's been about 6 months. So giving you an update on the progress since I've last been here. So a lot of this is going to sound familiar. Most of it's the same slides. Most of it's just to kind of, reinform you on the same information. Not a lot of it has totally changed at the front end of the presentation, but most of it has changed toward the end. I know you have printouts here, so I won't belabor some of the background stuff too much. But as many of you know, LW Clap Park was formerly a golf course. Based on sustainability review, they decided to close the golf course and kind of left, well, what do we do with the park now? Background, there are some community engagement processes in 2019. Obviously, COVID kind of affected that and shaped that up. So I know the engagement was, I wasn't here at the city, but I know that there was some engagement in person, but I know some of that happened online. So through the result of that, the city council adopted a master plan for the park. And based on most of the information that we received, wanted open space. That was the big thing. People wanted shade, picnic tables, dog park, area cafe, those sorts of things. There's a kind of a missing part of that in town, in District 3. I think of some of the other parks around town, like Swanson, Chisholm Creek, things like that, a little bit more of a nature park, a large open space to be able to walk around in. Previous golf course is a great opportunity for that and for this part of town. So again, kind of I mentioned, one of the things that we heard routinely was that don't go into the park too far. We really like it. You're gonna destroy all those trees. Try to keep it as open as you can. It's really beautiful when you're out there, if you're playing disc golf as I have been. It's very, you can still hear some of the cars, but you kind of forget that you're kind of in the middle of the city there. Based on the mature trees, you don't have that as many of them in a creek going through it. So that's a very valuable piece of amenity for the property. Background, as I mentioned, disc golf has taken off a lot. I know with COVID, a lot of people started playing disc golf and picking it up. You can see here just by some of the, just a photo, this was, I think, last year, the year before, I guess it would have been the year before, at one of the biggest tournaments that we have here in Wichita, Keeper of the Chains. If you've been out there and been to the, I guess the clubhouse, Duck, as most people call him, or Chris Dendurant, many of you know him, or May, very friendly, very nice. We actually have someone in the clubhouse, which is great because that means we have eyes on the park. We have activity there. We have point of sale, so they can come in and start engaging with the community. They can make some money too while they're there. They're selling discs, getting kids engaged with the outdoors. It's a great opportunity, especially going out of, in 2019, deciding not to keep it as a golf course. What a great opportunity for us to have for it actually being used instead of just sitting vacant. We also get many walkers and runners, as I'm sure many of you know, just driving around, you start to see a lot of people out there, especially during dusk and things like that. A lot of disc golfers out there too. One great thing is that we, WSU Cross Country, found the park. They were just coming out there to practice, and then they realized, oh wow, this is actually a great place to have cross country meets. They held a tournament in, I believe that was August or September, and it went very well. I think they had 700. Yeah, it was a large number of athletes out there. So a lot of activity at the park. So cross country is doing well. I think that WSU wants to host their conference tournament out there for cross country, which is great. Good opportunity for us. They were driving out like 30 or 40 miles. I can't remember exactly where, but they're driving way out of town. So getting people in the park and using and going to the using the facilities and also visiting the businesses around, which is always a good thing. A little bit of background, as many of you know, if you walked out there, bridges need a lot of help. A lot of them are falling into the creek. A lot of them, they're just old. It's been eroded. We have during big storm events, the water ends up going over the bridges. It's not a great thing. It's not safe. When it was a golf path or golf course, I figured it was okay because I didn't think someone's gonna drive a golf course or a golf cart over it. I'm sure it may have happened once or twice, but doesn't work for pedestrians. So some feedback that we received, we took a look at the master plan, thought about all the good things that came out of it, but also what do we need to do in 2022, 2023, when we were asking for this to be in the CIP, what do we actually need to have? Because the budget kind of came back with the master plan as it was a lot. So we had to kind of take it in pieces. The big things that we found were the bridges and creek. Obviously you saw the picture of the bridge that needs to be fixed, an inclusive playground, parking lot improvements, and the dog park. Confluence, they did the master plan for it, and they're under contract for phase 1 of the improvements. We have an art consultant and artist are part of the project. Gredeman Group, they're local. They are the art consultant for this project. And doing a great job as an art consultant. That's part of something that you have to have when you receive money for art. Part of the art needs to go to design council, which you'll see later, to present on the artwork so it is adopted and approved and stuff. So when you get art funding, you have to go to design council, get their approval as well. A little bit of background. In December, so not that long ago, City Council approved supplemental design agreement number 3 with Confluence. Basically, Confluence, Gredeman Group is underneath Confluence. Osman Aiken, the artist you can see here as an example of his artwork, is underneath Gredeman Group. So in order to make it easier for us to do it, we subcontracted underneath Confluence for Gredeman Group, and then Osman is underneath them. So you may look and see Confluence, oh, why are they getting more money? It's because the people that they have to pay underneath them as sub-consultants. As you can see there, glass, one of the things that we wanted for the design for the art, and again, this will go to design council for a little bit more vetting. We wanted something whimsical. That was the word that we used, was whimsical. For this inclusive playground, whimsical. That was one of the things that we felt would be great for a playground. How do you make it interesting? How do you keep it changing? That's one of the things, with the light and the glass starts to be dynamic. It's not something that you just drive by and it's stagnant. It's going to change every single time that you're out there based on the light patterns and everything and where you're sitting. So the improvements, as I mentioned, were the bridges, the creek improvements, inclusive playground, dog park, and associated parking lot with the dog park, because don't want people parking on the street, need to have a parking lot for those dog park users. We know that there's an issue with Bluff and Mount Vernon that's being addressed now. So Mount Vernon is already under design process. That's not part of this project, but that is going to be addressed here soon. And they're looking at making sure that was that Griffith over there. Making sure that loading and unloading times are secure and safe for those kids. So that's something that we've taken into account with our design as well, without getting into the whole traffic design of that. But we are working on a parking lot, because it's a lot easier getting us in a parking lot for kids to find their parents rather than out on the street. That's a lot more dangerous. So trying to hit multiple points with this design in this first phase. So bridge update, we solicited bids for the first phase. We tried to get all the bridges addressed. We tried to get as much as we could because we know that there's bridges in the creek. We tried to get as much done as we could. Figured there could be some savings in doing it all together, because when you mobilize a crane, you don't want to do that multiple times because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So we tried to get it all done as fast as we could, in one go. Turned out that it was a lot more expensive than what we were thinking. I think there are a number of different things. I think one of the things was that when you put riprap in the creek, a lot of contractors want to put people down in there to move the rock and stuff, instead of, because you kind of hard to reach down into the creek and use machinery, so using it by hand. So that's kind of one of the costs. The other thing too is that we have a number of other bridges, as you know, North Junction going on, Aaron Bridge, which just got finished. I know there's East Kellogg that's going to happen. So there are a lot of the contractors are focused on those other projects. So they didn't give us really, they couldn't necessarily fit in their schedule, or if they could, it comes at a cost. So we are reevaluating what we need, how to get the major issues addressed. One of them is, sure.
You want questions while you're speaking, if it's current, or do you want us to wait until the end?
Please wait until the end.
Pardon me?
Please wait until the end.
Okay.
So there's two bridges specifically. One of them, two of the closed ones. The two closed ones are the biggest ones that we have concerns with, because obviously they're failing and safety issue. They are blocked off as much as we can, but there's only so much you can do aside from just ripping the thing out or moving it. So we're gonna plan to address those and put railings on all the bridges that we can. That's the main plan, because railings, that's important. Bridges and creeks, that's also not a good thing. So addressing that. And again, as I mentioned, one bid was received on the bridge. We like to see more than one, like to see more competitive bid process, but it was way too high, so we're reevaluating. Overall site map, I'm sure this is pretty familiar to many of you. I'll leave this up here for just a moment, but you see up here towards the north, that's where the inclusive playground is planned to be. You can see over here where the dog park is planned to be. You see the creek with the blue line, the light blue and the green, those are trail connections. So, it doesn't really make sense how they're laid out now. It makes sense for a golf course, but it doesn't make sense for everyday users. So realigning and connecting the paths are important. That's something that's part of this project as well. Otherwise, you are kind of going to, if you've been out there, you just kind of weave around and you don't really know exactly where you're going. There's a total of 14 bridges, or there were 14 bridges. Now there's 13 because we ended up removing one, but a lot of bridges out there, more than what we'd probably like to have, but when it was a golf course, it made sense. Again, here are some of the main focus areas that we'll be talking about. This is just kind of an overview of the layout of the dog park. This kind of concept that we've been rolling with. You can see it's broken into 4 different segments, 2 for large dogs, 2 for small dogs. 1 will be closed for each size dog at a time. You need to give it a season to restore, because those dogs like to tear it up. If you have dogs, they like to run in the same spots. And when you get 50 of, or not 50 of them, but you get 10 of them together, they start to tear it up pretty good. So 1 will be on, 1 will be off for each size. Good thing to keep them away from each other, big and small dogs. So many of this may seem familiar to you from what presented in June. This was the original initial concept that we rolled with. You can start to see as I go through the slides how it starts to change and morph as we learn more about the design as we get into further detail. Generally, that's kind of how it goes. You start with the simple hand drawing like this, and eventually you start to get into more detailed drawings. Again, this was kind of the initial one that we probably showed you all. We had a large play feature, some music areas, plazas and shelters, a zip line. We had noted kind of an entry node up front, or wind sculpture. That's changed a bit, especially with Oswin still going through his process. We're still kind of deciding like the world needs to go. So engagement, we met with Griffith Elementary in Colvin. They gave us some great ideas, sat down with them, tried to listen to them. What exactly do they want to see? A lot of what we heard was they want to get up high. That's what a lot of them want. I mean, they just want to climb as high as they can. Many of them, you know, some of them, you know, when you're engaging with them, some of them are kind of quiet, some of them are a little bit louder, you know, and active with the process. Some kids like to have kind of their own space. So that's one thing that we try to take into account was create these different spaces or pockets for kids to play in. Especially if you're there with your siblings and stuff like that, especially if this is inclusive playground, you may have a more able-bodied child and they may have a sibling. You need to provide something for both of them. Can't just be, needs to be a place for the whole family, but needs to make sure that you address and provide something for those that need different equipment for maybe we put in some of our other playgrounds. So engagement, again, we met with Griffith and Elwyn and Colvin. We also engaged with Heartspring and Envision, the local services for impaired and disabled individuals. We toured Heartspring and Envision. One of the great things that we learned about Heartspring was that needing to be aware and trying to make sure that if you are a caretaker of exactly what kids are wanting to do and where they're going, because they're fast and they can take off. Especially if you have big kids, maybe older kids that don't typically fit into the normal age range that we plan for playground. So that's one thing that we try to keep in mind, trying to make sure that parents can see all around, they can be safe, they can see the entrances and exits. You're seeing a kid go over a giant hill, you know, it's a little bit easier to spot that, you know, or going out through one exit than just having an open field, as are some of our other playgrounds.
I like how you laid that music over with. It's a
Yeah,
good-
yeah, sorry, we,
Hearing impaired.
Well, probably forgot that was in there, but we had a great time with the kids. Becca, is this on the?
He agrees, he likes music too.
Yeah, he's probably in the dance and the bebop.
Yeah, it's all part of the amenities the park department provides.
It approves PowerPoint
Oh, the music flows the power.
a little bit.
And now I broke it.
No, you're fine.
Right. He was around 18 or so.
Yeah. There, that's what we want.
One more, please. Okay. Okay, perfect, great. Okay, so, design development, so that's what we're getting. So lots of different features that we're planning on adding. This was, one of the concepts that we were running with, earlier on. There'll be another concept that, we're asking you to approve on, later, but this is kind of what we kind of started with as we start to refine. One of the big things that was number one, is the big DNA tower. That's the one that tries to help get that vertical element, especially with some of those kids that it's a little bit more difficult for them to get higher, trying to provide that, whether it's a physical disability or it may be mentally handicapped in some way, shape or fashion, trying to provide something for them to engage vertically, even if it's just going up a ramp, that helps. Trampoline, ingrained trampoline, which I'll show a photo of here soon, which I didn't know that they had, but you put wheelchairs on these in-ground trampolines and provide up and down motion. which a lot of those kids that are in wheelchairs, they just go back and forth. They don't really get to go up and down. Spinning is another one that those kids don't usually get to have. So providing a lot of different experiences in the playground that you don't typically get to have for many of these kids. This is the final design. You can start to see here that we're starting to build up those berms, the grand entryway into it. That helps one with getting us up to get into that big DNA tower that we have. It's hard to get someone up there without stairs with a ramp, so you kind of have to have the berms in order to do that. Obviously, this was a little bit further down the road when the trees get a little bit more mature, but adding trees and helping keep with the theme of LW5. You can see there an entry signage there, help create some identity for the park and for the area in the neighborhood. There's a shade shelter. You can kind of see that over here. That's one of the things that we've heard is that, you know, you can have a great playground, but if there's no shade, you're not going to stay there for very long. So this is the final design that we're running with. You can see here that we're manipulated this a little bit more. You can start to see that there's the entry area here. One of the things that we learned with our visit to Hartsville was that sometimes you just need a place to decompress and leave. Sometimes you can get, you know, a little overwhelmed, especially if you have a bunch of kids there. Maybe you're not used to that many kids, a place to kind of leave and kind of decompress a little bit. We have signage in there. One of the things with some kids that aren't very verbal, having a sign for them to be able to point to is very important to have, because it's hard to express yourself sometimes, especially if you aren't very speaking is a challenge for you, having things to point to and things. So one of the things that we try to keep in mind was one for the playgrounds, but also the parents that are taking them there. Musical elements down through here in 10, I thought that was a great one. Generally we don't see a ton of great success with musical instruments just on our regular day-to-day playgrounds, but given with the clubhouse there, the amount of use that we think that this playground's gonna have and the amount of times that we're gonna need to go there to do routine safety checks, we think that we're gonna be able to keep an eye on those more. The biggest thing is that if things are on ropes, people just like to follow them and break them off. So when we think that a lot of things that we don't do in maybe our other playgrounds, this is a great site to use to put them in and try to create a really good experience rather than just a one-off in one park. We can have them all together. So here's some of the playground features. I won't go through all of them too very much, but one other one that I like to point out is accessible zip line. If you've been down to Pawnee Prairie Park, they have a zip line. Boston has a zip line. I think there's maybe another one that has a zip line. They love it. Everyone loves zip lines, but this one is a lot easier because you can help individuals that have handicap mobility issues into these linear zip lines. They don't go super fast. You can walk with them. You can kind of push them along. So we're getting more engagement, different experiences for these kids. The big feature is the DNA tower. Colors are still being determined, but the big thing here is that we're going to be able to give the kids in wheelchairs, they're able to get up to this area right here. So they're still up high. There'll be interactive panels in here. It's kind of hard to tell, but this is where that berm is that's leading up on the west side. So we'll be able to come across and engage with kids in these different, they call them booth structures, but they'll be able to engage here. For those that aren't wheelchair bound, they're able to move over here a little bit more, climb higher and lower. There are engagement opportunities here on the ground level and a big giant slide. You can see some of the plant mixes here. Lots of native plants, trying to get grasses in there, trying to get a lot of color in there. The dog park features, kind of hard to see here, but you can see that we're kind of took that original concept, developing it more. The big thing is having gravel entry. If you've been to some of our other parks. It gets pretty muddy at the very beginning, so we're trying to accommodate that, try to make sure that it's we think having the rotation every other year instead of every third year, as we do at some of our other parks, that we'll be able to keep this grass a lot more tidy and a lot less muddy. You can see there a little bit more detail on the parking lot, the back end parking. We worked with our traffic engineer at the city, felt that back end parking was safer because if you have kids loading, you don't have kids darting behind while you're backing up. Not everyone has, you know, the cameras to back up, so that backing in and then being able to drive forward when you see kids, especially when kids are getting out of school. If you're loading dogs up, you know, it's a lot easier if you put them in the back of your vehicle. Just open the back and get them out instead of these door sides and have them dart across the drive and stuff like that. So a lot of the normal amenities that we usually have at the dog park, but this is the plan that we're working with. So upcoming steps, Osman is going to continue work on artwork. Our consultant still going to turn passport for those bridges. We're getting pretty close on this design I presented to you today, but the bridges is kind of an unknown right now, but we're trying to come up with a solution to get the main issues fixed. Next plan is to go to design council on January 8th and park board, that will both be on January 8th, so that'll be a big day. And city council on January 9th, hoping for approval there and initiate the rest of the funding for 2024. So because right now we have funding for 2023 initiated, we need the second half, the 2024 for this first phase in order to get this project moved along. So again, we're planning or anticipating bidding this out in the first quarter this year. We imagine that the playground will take probably the most amount of time. The dog park, we don't imagine will take too very long. The big issue with the playground is just making sure we're getting the equipment in. They have a lot of lead times for playground equipment. That's kind of the big thing. Otherwise, you know, we have a lot of local contractors that know how to do this stuff. So not really concerned about that in terms of construction. It's really just kind of waiting on the final pieces. I guess the recommended action would be to approve the concepts, and I'm happy to stand for any questions. Thank you for bearing with me.
Right, questions from Deb?
The artwork that you mentioned back on page 9 was approved by the city on December 19th. How much does that cost?
Oh, great question. Should have. Let's see. I believe it's $300,000, and that includes art, and that also includes the art consultant. So the art consultant basically helps me. Basically, what the city wants to do is we don't want to have any liability on the city. That's why we have one contract with one person. So we try to divvy that out into one contract so that if something does go awry, we have one person to contact. So the total is $250,000. We haven't determined what that's going to look like yet. We're still developing that. We don't know exactly what the.
So it's gonna be artwork by committee?
Do it.
It's gonna be artwork by committee?
Well, it's just gonna be him. He's gonna be the designer, but we're gonna have some input on.
What I'm worried about is you talked about getting bids for the bridges and it was out of budget. Wouldn't it be better, and if you haven't determined exactly where the walk paths are, I don't want you to put a piece of art up and then nobody will be able to get to it because nobody planned the pathways to coincide. And is there anybody at City Hall that would work with corporations to get corporate sponsored art, maybe more toward the end of the project? And then if you could put it where close to the playground, some of the kids would enjoy it close to the play park, you know, rather than just start the artwork in the early stages. It seems like you got a lot of planning to do, and the money could be used for things that are over budget. And maybe we could get corporations to sponsor pieces of art by the artists.
Well, so we do have, I think, $100,000 from the Wichita Park Foundation, which is great to help with this project for one. The other thing is that the art gets decided years in advance. The funding for the art gets decided years in advance, or it depends on where the process is. But it got decided before we got further along. We aren't allowed to touch art dollars and reallocate them for something different in the park. So I like to think of it as just kind of a separate bucket, that this is for art and this is for everything else. If that needed to change, I think that would be up to city council to determine, but I don't think that we're obligated by our ordinance that have 2% for art for CIP budgets, and that the design council helps decide where that funding should go to before the projects generally even start. So one thing to note is that the art is going to be, this is just a rough, you can see it as a circle. The idea is that it will be in this general area. So it will be working for the playground and it'll be part of the playground without, it's not, the pathways aren't going to connect to it.
Well, you're only gonna have one piece, you're only gonna have art throughout the whole park.
The plan was to have one single piece because we felt that that would be a better opportunity to see more users. That doesn't mean we can't put art throughout the park later. The main thing was that creating something big, impressive, that is gonna want to draw more people in, a destination for people to go to. We felt that having one location in the playground would help do that.
I noticed in a lot of the pictures, and I'll kind of limit my question real quick, that I don't see any light posts. Are the hours gonna be dusk to dawn, or is it gonna have lighting in the park eventually?
There's not planned to be lighting in the park. That's one thing that we don't have in many of our other parks, so.
Well, that actually might work in, because it's a great dark space if you wanna take a telescope over there and view the stars or anything happening. You go about 4 miles in, it's as good as anything they got in the country for dark space.
I don't think we intend to put light into the park.
Well, I'm always hammering for solar, but if you're not gonna put any lights in, then turn around and do something better with the dark space.
I do have an initial personal thing that we need to make sure that all of our lights are dark sky initiative lights too. So that's another way if we do have lights or in other parks,
I'm done.
Okay, anybody else in the dab? Yes.
For the, around engagement, talk about the paths and stuff.
Yeah.
So my thing is, so let's say they come into a park and they want to go on a walk, but they're limited in their ability, how far they can go. Can there be paths that kind of are short and give them the ability to go without having to go all the way down here and over a bridge? Like a little 10-minute path?
Yeah, I see what
You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah.
make it more, that activity more accessible. I know it's more for a lot of movement, but
Yeah,
enable them to have another activity that can engage them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that comment. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to try to kind of have something smaller right in here if possible.
Well, even there, but if they're pulling it up on the north, yeah, up closer, I think. Because they probably park there and wheel over to the park and, we'll go on a little, and maybe to incorporate along that path some of the native stuff too. I saw you had them segmented, but there could be an educational piece for them. I love everything about the design. I like that. I like the fact that sculpture is changing. I like, I don't know, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool. I mean, when you think about these kids that are they're very alienated, it's tough. And I just, while you're going through and looking at all those toys, I'm just imagining the kids that are gonna see that and what a wonderful experience that is, but then also to take them into this environment that used to be a golf course. Now it's for all classes, all weathers, all times of day. And they're seeing, well, it's not just turf, there's wildflowers here, there's other types of grasses that are growing, wow. So the whole notion of possibility and possibilities are awakening as they move through this space.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that was part of the master plan, was trying to have those native stands of grasses and stuff like that. I'd like to get some of that more implemented into the park. It's, we pay quite a lot to just mow down turf, but it'd be great to have some pockets of the native, and so I know there's a fine balance you have to have.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Debbie?
Did I understand that the art's gonna be made out of glass?
Yes, so, let's see if hopefully we don't go back. There we go. Yes, so, Austin has a number of different, can't remember them off the top of my head, but he has a number of different installations that are in public spaces. I believe it's like tempered glass so that you can't really like break in. If it does break, it's not gonna like, or laminated glass, so it's not gonna just like shatter everywhere and clean up. That's one of the things that I want to talk to Osman about. Well, I haven't had him on site yet. You know, he got approved on the 19th, so it wasn't really around Christmas, the right time to start asking about class. But yes, that's the idea of that.
That was my concerns with safety and longevity.
Yeah, we definitely don't want broken glass around the playground, so.
That was where I was
Yeah.
going, like,
Sure.
can they just make it out of metal or
Why
something?
You're not vocally challenged now, and work hard.
Sorry.
The artwork's gonna be at the far south side of the entertainment area,
It will be, sorry,
so it won't be visible from Harry.
it will be visible from here. It will. Oh, thank God. Sorry, so it's, I'm trying to stand. North is up here, so the parking lot for the clubhouse is right here, parking lot. So you'll be able to
Is
see
that
it
here
all
right
along Harry, yes, yeah.
And that'll be the main entrance right there coming off Airworth.
Yes, yeah, let's see if I have.
And the long trail still gonna be on the far west side, went all the way down through there, to the park.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The trail on the far west side of the park,
Yes. Yes, this will continue all the way down and connect.
and all the way to the dog park.
Yeah, it'll eventually connect to the dog park, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a high-speed trail, I like it.
Yeah, we are planning to keep that, and then, but yeah, I think that was, hopefully. Nope. So yeah, so this is the idea where the art would be, so you can imagine having.
Be right past the clubhouse.
Yep, so you can come and see it kind of entry into class.
This is a large scale piece, right? It's not like a 6x12.
No,
It's a very
About
large.
$2.
yeah, I'm super paying that. A good piece, yeah, yeah.
My,
I got about the price, yeah.
I was just gonna comment, well, like a good comment. I really love this design, you know, cause I'm the youth member. So like just to give a youth insight, I think this is a really good step to progressing and improving and renovating Wichita. And I think the inclusivity is like a great aspect because I think that's something that previously was not really thought about. And so I think that's really showing how Wichita is trying to move forward, and I think it's something we should have did a long time ago. And no, I just think it's a beautiful park. I mean, at my big age of 17 years old, I would love to go and get on the V&A structure. Like it just looks so fun and a good space for kids. And as somebody who has younger siblings and working with kids in the summer at summer camp, like this is something that kids would love. You know, even it's gonna take a while for like the park to be built and everything, but I think this is a really good thing. And I would strongly recommend that the DAB approves because I'm not a voting member.
The timeline again on this. Now, the linchpin is when you can get the people out there for the bridges, because that obviously you need to be safe in the park first. But will work be going on, some of the groundbreaking work?
Yeah,
or-
so the original plan was to get the bridges done and going, so that we knew how much money we had left over for the plan.
I see.
Now that that's kind of thrown a wrench into things, we are holding tight to what we had for the budget for the playground that we were anticipating. And then we'll use whatever money we had originally for the bridges, and we'll use that for whatever we can do with the bridges, whatever reasonable to do. We just have to downsize that. So I'm trying to think of it as two separate kind of buckets, bridge and playground, and not trying to mix them until we know when they can be mixed, if that makes sense. In terms of timing, the bridges, I like to get that, like, I wish they were out there right now. But I think we need to look into a little bit more on what the main issues were, if we need to like adjust the plans a little bit in order to make it, you know, more cost effective. In terms of the playground, we are able to do a co-op purchase, so we'll plan on, you know, assuming that approval, you know, if you do all approves today, and everyone, all the other committees and councils approve of it, then we would then proceed with purchasing the playground equipment through a co-op. That would help us expedite the time for one. And then, so we'll be having an order out for that playground, so we're trying to get rolling as fast as we can. We then probably in late February, maybe early March, or hopefully in late February, put it out to bid. And then so we'll have a contractor out there in March or April, actually moving the dirt around.
Okay, anybody else from the DAD? Yes, Jessica.
I mean, I like the design. I think it looks great. I think it'll be a really nice addition to that area. My only comment is, you know, the DNA tower looks great. That's gonna be probably a main attraction for a lot of kids. But it really is like the only element with any height incorporated. So just as you guys are kind of moving forward and looking at purchases, as a mom to a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 11-year-old, I would say things like the log steppers or the spinner, you could probably get rid of and nobody would be sad about it. If you could trade that for some extra height in like the rock climbing feature and maybe some more real estate that would take up, because those are really the big, you know, ticket items besides things like, I mean, the trampoline is gonna be amazing, the accessible zip line, the bigger swings, that'll all be great. But some of the littler things, kids don't really care about that stuff as much if they can go climb somewhere.
Anybody else from the DAD? All right, comments from the public? Yes.
Having lost a lot of golf balls in that creek over the years, is there any infrastructure improvements to the water control? Because it can really flood coming off of Oliver.
Creek is missing.
Yeah, I mean, is that part gonna be rebuilt at all?
Upstream, they're working on flood measures, flood controls. I believe, and I've asked maybe some people to correct me if I'm off base, but I believe Bleckley ends up coming through and ends up flooding this area. So the idea is that the improvements to Bleckley, the Bleckley River, is gonna affect and improve a lot of the issues that we're seeing with the flooding in terms of the creek. Because you're already seeing that we are having a lot of erosion within the creek. That's one of the main issues, is that during these big storm events, that's when we're getting a huge rush through, and that's when a lot of the erosion's happening and the flooding over those bridges are occurring. Stormwater management probably has a better answer for that, but the upstream is where some of the main issues.
But that's coming out of different money, correct?
Yes, that would not be part of this money, yeah.
And if I may, I do believe the Army Corps of Engineers has been through there recently. One of the things they talked about was clearing a lot of the volunteer trees along the creek, because that'll collect a lot of the garbage that doesn't get flown through. And then when it floods, all that garbage that's built up there clogs it up and backs it up. So Doug, who's out there, has been talking about organizing volunteers to come out and help clear out some of the volunteer trees along the shores there.
Who has the ultimate responsibility for maintenance of Dry Creek? Is that city flood control?
City controls that floodway, or they go out there and they mow it, as much as they can.
I'm on the Riverside Drainage District Board. It's a little bit different situation.
They had mentioned putting a bag in to collect trash, so it wouldn't get in there. Was that been scrapped, that idea? Because I guess the bags were super expensive and they had to be replaced periodically.
Yeah, I think that was probably the main thing. I mean, I'd like to see a bag out there, but I'm the one that has to go out there. And maybe, write it through my budget, so.
Yeah.
Hold on. We were taking comments from the public and can't go back and forth. And so was there anybody else from the public that wanted to make any comments? Paul?
I'm gonna put on my invisible taxpayer hat. First things first, public projects, is this something that have to set aside 10% for art?
Yes, the
Okay.
2%, but yeah.
Beg pardon?
I believe it's 2% of the whole CIP.
2%, I thought it was 10, okay, wrong number, okay. Let's go back to when it was a golf course. The word was, golf courses are supposed to be self-sustaining. This one doesn't generate enough revenue to maintain itself. Does your project generate enough revenue to maintain itself? I know the answer, but go ahead and tell me.
I would assume that probably no.
You would be correct.
No, I don't think we're charged for.
So,
Playground.
while all these things are wonderful, and I agree with all the folks that say they're wonderful, I think you should just look at your property tax receipts or statements that you just got, where your property taxes went up considerably. Those are the things that pay for things like this. So when your house and your car and all that things went up, what, 20-some%, I think it was, close to that. This is where part of that money goes. So, you know, you can put up a zip line in your backyard, or you can put one up a clap lot for a lot more money.
Cheaper. We're all contributing to it. I couldn't put in something like that in my backyard on my own.
Do what?
Well, it's cheaper if we are all are contributing to the building of something like this, 'cause I can't afford to put in something. like
Whatever,
that.
Okay,
I just think you need to know where the money's coming from that pays for all these wonderful things.
we have anybody
You.
else we have anybody else in the public that wants to comment or question? Okay, then I'm gonna bring it back, to the DAB for action.
Can I make one comment?
You can, that's part of our action.
Okay, part of the problem with not sustaining as a golf course was they had to use public water to water the.
I agree. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Bills would run anywhere from 90,000 to 120,000.
You're absolutely correct. And debt service on Auburn Hills.
And now we allow Mother Nature to provide us with the water. But there is also, I live across the street from the park, I have for 25 years.
Mhm.
If you get a 10-inch rain, which we did 15 years ago,
Yep.
the water goes above the bridge that's on the street.
Mhm.
And it doesn't need water from the north to help it. It's 97 acres of 10 inches of rain, and it fills up fast. Now, I don't know what, they say they can't clean south of Mount Vernon because it's private land for the creek, and they'd have to get permission from all the landowners. So there's a lot of factors that the civil engineers are trying to work out. But it does not take long. If we ever have another 10-inch rain, I don't know. But I've watched the water rise, and it's just unbelievable.
Well, the good news is they rebuilt Kellogg, but that no longer funds it.
Paul, we're on DAB comment.
Well, back and forth here, you said.
No, we're not going back.
I'm done.
Oh, I didn't hear you bring it back to the dam. Excuse me.
Okay, so I brought it back to the DAB for action.
No, I just need to go.
Make a motion to approve the design of the platform.
No second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Rich, a second by Jerry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
So,
Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We're gonna move on to agenda item number 8, which is the overnaming of George Washington Boulevard.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynn Okudere. I'm a management fellow from the City Manager's Office. The item we have to present today is a request for the overnaming of George Washington Boulevard, which is here in District. Oops. Okay. So the background of this, so the Kansas Aviation Museum, they have requested for the overnaming of George Washington Boulevard to Air Capital Boulevard. The overnaming highlights the historical significance of Wichita aviation heritage, and it underscores the community's pride and its unique identity. The street segment to be overnamed relates to Wichita aviation history in a meaningful way. So we are taking this request to the City Council earlier in December, on December 5th, and they had approved for the Board of Park Commissioners to act as the naming advisory board for this request. And so the Board of Park Commissioners had made a recommendation that this be brought to the DAB. So that's why we're here. So the area for the overnaming is from East Lincoln Street to East 31st Street, as highlighted. So the recommendation for today is that the DAB provides comments and feedback on this naming request, which will take to the Board of Park Commissioners for final determination to the City Council. Okay, thank you. I'll stand for questions. Also, I'd like to mention that the CEO of the Kansas Aviation Museum is here for any questions as well.
All right, questions or comments from the DAB?
What does that overnaming look like?
So it's actually like signs on the actual sign
Oh, okay. So it'll be like a little sign on top.
on top of it.
And it doesn't show up in like the Sedgwick County real property search, or it doesn't. For purposes, for all other purposes, it'll be referred to as George Washington Boulevard, right? For like address.
Mail and address.
For mailing address
Addresses.
purposes, yes.
What's the cost of the overnaming?
So first of all, the cost will be borne by the requester, and it depends on how many blades that would be needed. So I can give you an exact amount today, but it would depend on how many blades the city decides that we require.
Other questions or comments from the DAB?
Can we get Doc to appear with any of the renaming?
If I may, Madam Chair.
It's a good idea.
Ben Sacita, he's the, he runs the Aviation Museum. He's done a great job over the last couple of years, getting it back. He's been waiting here patiently for an hour and a half. Please ask him some questions. But he's done a great job, and I fully encourage everybody to go down and check it out. They have a Black Aviators exhibit, they have a Women in Aviation exhibit.
Do you have people at the museum that go out and speak to groups about?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I
We
need.
have about three or four of us that will do that consistently. I will say, just for the purpose of this part here, the reason, the historical background on this isn't just so much as Wichita being the air capital, but George Washington Boulevard itself has a historical significance that ties to our facility, which was the original Wichita Airport. George Washington Boulevard was built as a vertical or horizontal street in the city of Wichita to get people from the city core back in the 30s directly to the airport, which is why it runs at a diagonal way, and it ends at our location. And so as we come up on the centennial of the building and so many different pieces that tie into Wichita's history with aviation, having an overnaming, just as you do, 135 is Martin Luther King Jr. Highway. You have up on K96. It's the same type of thing. It's just, it gives a marketing thing for the city and for us as well, but for the city to really put a feather in their cap on. I was talking to Dr. Utach this morning, actually at WC Tech, and she was talking about her time in Tennessee, where the Beechcraft Heritage Museum's at, which has no business in Tennessee, but it's there because they laid claim to it in the 70s. But the only reason they knew that existed was because they had banners up all across the town highlighting what they had there. And Wichita, unfortunately, I don't feel like we always do the best job of selling ourselves on what we do have. And so the request is simply for an overlay to help give honor and tribute to the hardworking men and women that have made Wichita the air capital of the world.
Ben, have we got the city to commit $300,000 for an art piece out there at the Kansas Aviation Museum yet?
The city has committed several $1,000s to us. We don't need an art piece. So
They need a.
we need a ramp. And we've been talking through that part there. I mean, there are needs that the facility has. It's a 100-year-old building almost there. The city just did about almost $1 million roof repair job and such. And then they have also been helpful in getting some of these new exhibits up and running. And we're just gonna continue on that. We have some other campaigns we're working on to bring more attention to the museum and the history. But again, I think all this plays into the part of which again, is one of the crown jewels of District 3. Is the only cultural facility south of Kellogg. And something I think that the district can hang their hat on.
I'm thinking we're gonna build it up similar to the Seattle Air Museum someday.
It would be nice too. You know, there's different things that need to take place in the area. Beyond just what we're capable of doing as a museum. We're gonna need public or private investment in the area. In multiple ways there, but you have to have a revenue stream, right? You can't just demand people go somewhere where there's no revenue. So there's several pieces. So hopefully one day, yeah, we become like Seattle or we become like San Diego. But we'll just keep working at it little bit by little bit. And steps like this just kind of help bring that notoriety that's necessary.
Okay, any other?
Do you have the designs already for those overlay? Do you have the designs? Is it gonna be like a?
So you would follow the city standards of what they use for them. So
okay.
generally on the larger signs, I believe there's the brown ones there. Now what we could look at doing too, and this would be something that we'd have to go through is using some of the street poles along there. And we could do the banners, like you see downtown with the Orpheum and some of those pieces like that. So it really creates the mechanism for us to do more just by having the approval already, and we're just not going out on a limb.
For what it's worth, if you don't remember, one of the big things that they were involved in was the B-29 dock restoration. Had lots of volunteers out there working all the time on that apron, you know. But the funny thing was when I was on the airport advisory board, when they got it all done and the FAA said, okay, you can fly it. The Air Force says, fine, you can use our runway to take off, but you can't land here. Correct? Or you weren't there then. You weren't there then. That's right. I think that's probably Tim Norton, probably at that time.
Before that, it was,
Okay.
it's been about 8
Oh,
years
wow.
ago.
I also thought that's kind of funny. Ron Ryan said there was somewhere in Washington, there was a colonel with a clipboard that made that decision.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring it back to the DAB, and the recommended action is really just to provide comment. And so I think that we've done that. We appreciate you coming.
Glad you guys are doing it.
Share with us, and Ben, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you.
And send people that way.
Yeah.
People are in town, send them out to the AV.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
They have some pretty neat exhibits of the
Oh, yeah.
first.
Okay.
What were the
You know, they.
women, the wing walkers, is that what they were?
Oh, yeah, the wing walkers.
Yeah, so they had some pretty cool airplanes,
Yeah.
down there dealing with that. It's really neat,
We
especially.
have 23 different aircrafts either out on the ramp
Yeah.
or inside the building.
That's our 71, that brings traffic in.
Yeah, so, yeah, that would be nice to get back, but yeah.
All right, let's move forward
Okay, Kelly.
to agenda item number 9, which is updates, issues, and reports, and we'll let Councilman Hoheisel tell us what's up.
Well, we did have a good meeting yesterday, an interesting meeting. To start off with, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm glad to see everybody safe and here. You know, we had a rough 2023 here in District 3 on our DAB. And just some of the people that we lost along the way. So let's hope 2024, everybody is the same at 2025. Everybody's healthy, everybody's here. So I do appreciate that. Yesterday's meeting, we did pass campaign finance reform to make it to where LLCs cannot donate or bundle to campaigns. This one was a little contentious. I was the main one pushing this one along. I believed about it when I was knocking doors. I believed in it. So I walked the walk. We walked the walk. We had a council that it passed 4-3. I'm not sure where the new council's positions are on that, so hopefully we stand up with this for a while. I brought up yesterday the fact that in Delaware, the state legislature there and some of the municipalities are considering letting LLCs vote in municipal elections. So it's important that we make a value statement here. My opinion and my ability to donate to a campaign should be the same as yours, should be the same as anybody else out there. And we have people in our community who have 30 or more LLCs. So they could donate $500 over and over and over and over. Been working on this for over a year before the incoming mayor was even announcing. So this was not a slap at anybody. It's just a concern, I think, most of Wichita feels, most of the voters out there feel. And I keep coming back to America it's a democracy. And what that means to me is we're supposed to have ideas out there. And we debate the ideas and the strong ideas survive. Because everybody gets to weigh in on it. Hopefully, totally together, we make the right decision as far as the ideas go. So I've always felt that money in politics dilutes that because you can boost up bad ideas and make sure that they're out there time and time and time again as part of the conversation that most people don't. So we did push that through yesterday.
Can you tell who voted against that?
Well,
I didn't get to see the meetings.
council members Fry, Tuttle and Blue voted against it.
Two languages.
Another big thing, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the upcoming year. We are getting a new community resource center in Plainview. Colvin is the size of this room. You look at Atwater, you look at Evergreen, you look at a lot of these other districts. They have great amenities for the people who need it and neighborhoods where they need it. Plainview needs it. Yeah.
Is it separate from the city, the satellite city hall, or is it gonna be incorporated?
Well, the city hall is currently part of Colvin Elementary School. It'll be right across the way from.
Across the parking lot in Plainview Park.
Yeah, I had to do some financial moving around some of our CIP money to get this project. So we had about $2 million allotted for Plainview, Plainview Park improvements. We had a little over $1 million for Watson Park improvements, and these are years down the road. We had the $4 million for Platt Park improvements, and we had about $3.5 million for a building not in our district. And that's what we combined and we bumped up in the CIP so this can get done pretty quick. We're also looking for an additional $3.5 million of private funds to come in and do some of the add-ons. Right now we have one gym. Hopefully we can get 2 gyms in there. And so we're going to have a presentation before too long. In regards to the Clap Park money, that is in 2030. That's what was allotted. I did bump $500,000 of that up. Worked with financial to bump that up for Clap Park this time around to make sure we were going to have the playground that we want. The rest of that money, I will ask for a little bit of grace and a little bit of time because I believe we will put it back in for Clap Park for that same term later in the CIP. This is more of a financial thing that we have to do now in order to bump the money up. We have to bundle it together and bump it up. And then later we can add money at the back. Again, even if I win re-election, I will not be the council member when that pot of money comes forward for Clap Park. And this will be in the same term as whoever wins council that year. So whether, somebody else beats me as their second term or somebody brand new, they will have the ability to kind of go with the public, figure out what they want to do with that for a Clap Park improvements. But long story short, this is a great deal for our, one of the most neediest communities in our district. And it's been ignored for far too long. So we did push forward on that. The last thing I would say, I'd like to just talk about last DAD meeting. I think it was last DAD meeting, we had a zoning case that was turned down. The applicant was not here to answer questions. They have reached out since, asking to possibly come back and answer some of these questions. That zoning case comes up January 16th. You guys turned it down unanimously, I believe. But again, people were not here to answer the question. So I would just ask if everybody would be okay if I bring this back to DAB to hear, so that way all your questions are heard from the bench at City Council on January 16th. you know, it's a lot of money to apply for some of these zoning cases. I'm a working guy, I see those numbers come up, it's like, yeah. You know, again, people should be here, I get that as well, but, so I was just wanting to run it by you guys and see if that is something that you would consider.
Are you gonna bring it back before the January 16th?
No, I will on the January 16th meeting, from the bench, I'll say I'd like to return.
I wasn't here, I apologize for that, so I really probably ought to be mute. I have, whatever you wanna do.
I also was not here at the last meeting.
Does he want to come talk to us?
Yeah.
That was
But when-
kind of what we
but when?
wanted.
Hmm?
That was what we wanted.
Right, right,
That was where you want to stack the building up, what an adequate parking.
possibly, yeah, that's the case, that might be what their plan is, but again, I'm not clear on their plan either, so.
It was all kind of vague at that time too, so.
Right, and that's why we need the answers.
But the planning commission approved that case.
Yeah. And were they there to push that at the planning commission meeting? I'm not sure if they had an agent there or not.
I'm sure that they did, because we generally will not hear a case if there's not an agent or applicant there.
Okay, well, I value you guys as a.
He spoke on their behalf and then the other guy wasn't here. He said they wanted that. That's about it.
I mean, I don't think it's gonna change the outcome of the case one way or the other. That's just my 2 cents, but certainly I guess if the rest of the dad wants to have it.
I'm not comfortable with it just on terms of precedent.
We did do this last year for one case, and we came back. So that's the only other time I can remember in my 2 years.
I think we are on a slippery slope there. I think we're on a slippery slope there. I personally am not in favor, but
I'm indifferent
whatever
to it
it
as
is.
well. So.
I would just like to see us, and I know we say this over and over, and I know Paul says it. You know, be able to have a say before it ever goes to the planning commission, and have the planning commission listen to what the DAB says.
I hear you there.
That would be my preference.
There's a lot of things I wish we could change.
I know.
Well, the
It is what
planning
it is.
commission also allowed the applicant tonight to appear and engage with us over Zoom, which is not allowed for you when you go in front of the MAPC. You have, so it has the reputation of being an old boys club, even though it's mixed gendered. and
I mean,
different
I'm
ages.
sure, I'm not a boy.
I said, even though it's mixed gendered.
I might be old though.
But from what I said, the MAPC is a problem. The MAPC is a problem. They can go, they don't pay attention to what people spend all this time building a plan. They don't pay attention to it. It's not important. I don't know who they're serving Wichita, right? We gotta have growth. We gotta have. If they had their druthers, based upon what I've been reading in urban planning, they would have no parking minimums. They would have zero zoning. That's what they want. And they do not understand why people get upset, because people who live in neighborhoods, one of the reasons they buy is for the vibe that the neighborhood has. That's very important. And then MAPC just doesn't, they don't care about that stuff.
Well, otherwise, we could put the next auto salvage at 13th and North Broad.
Yeah, right.
Just put it where Clap Park is.
Yeah. I mean, really, if that,
I mean, we really are a dumping
yeah,
ground. We really are. South, seriously.
we are.
This district and District 1 is really a dumping ground. We can put whatever, people can put whatever they want there, and as long as we keep doing what we keep doing, we'll keep getting what we keep getting until we get ready to stand up and say, we're not gonna do that anymore because we want something different than an auto salvage or a used car lot or whatever. And, you know, the case we heard tonight is a good example, because they may come in and they may have good intentions, but we provide a conditional use that they decide that's not working out for them. The next guy, who knows what he'll do with that property, what kind of salvage.
You want proof of that?
Pardon me?
You want proof of that? Go to my old place.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Ridiculous.
Because we keep saying yes, we keep saying, yeah, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it.
But you voted unanimously.
But we can never change anything because we keep doing the same things over and over and expecting that things will get better.
And on that note, there is some discussion about separating salvage yards from tow yards as far as zoning cases go.
100 years overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So there is that talk. I think that is gonna be something that they're gonna be moving on here.
Well, we just don't need to, we have enough property along Broadway that's zoned for auto related uses without continuing to rezone and rezone and rezone
Make it,
property for auto related uses.
We're supposed to be having a
Well-
walkable city.
My first meeting was, we took one that was car related and zoned it back to residential, so. We're going farther south and making them residential, and we're coming farther north and making them junk. That's reversed in my opinion.
Okay, well, noted. I appreciate the discussion. No, you're all fine. This is what that's for, so, with
They
that.
they have plenty of advantages, all the way up to the data. They have plenty of advantages. They have a very pro, do what you want MAPC. All these advantages, and then they come to Devon and we're just gonna be like, oh yeah, roll over us.
I hear,
That's what it feels like.
I hear.
If I may, you just need to know the makeup of MAPC with the exception of yourself and Joshua Blick, is it?
Yeah.
It's all realtors and developers. What do you expect?
Well, no, Infox is not.
Who is?
We had
Infox.
Infox too.
Okay.
Yeah, Infox.
Oh,
Not-
okay.
Not really. I mean, she was with Habitat for a long time. They did
Okay.
development, but she's not.
They're the majority, let's put it that way.
You're right.
All right, well, with that,
Question.
yeah,
I noticed on the news recently, they talked about the parking meters downtown.
Boy,
I voted against that.
good.
I'm not sure what I feel, but the one question I have is I never hear them talk about handicap parking.
I asked that question during the council meeting yesterday. They said they were gonna look for adequate handicap parking and it will not be charged.
Okay.
It'll be free parking.
Really?
Well, now, my understanding was if if you have a handicap tag and you couldn't find a handicap stall, and you could find a regular stall, if you hung your handicap, most of the time the meter maids or the police will not ticket you if they realize you couldn't find it, but I don't know how that'll work with these new ones. Second thing is I don't like this new format.
You want it all separate?
Well, not all, but I like having the agenda here, so I can flip through the.
Yeah.
It was a little confusing for me.
And I have to have taking napkins and marking my plate. And the last thing I have is what's the city manager office got to do with this?
Lynn, who is presenting, is a management fellow through the city manager's office, and they're the ones who deal with that process
Oh,
of
okay.
overnighting.
That's only the last part of the presentation.
And I did forget one thing. We also passed landlord retaliation ordinance yesterday. So if landlords are kicking you out because you reported violations, now there's a process that they can get fined anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 per offense. And also be named. So I think it's 2 years that it'd be on the website, so people will see the people that are picking people out for this. So there's a whole process. There will be negotiations, but I can't remember the exact term. It's been a long day. But sort of a hearing. We will have an investigation into any cases that we think there's some merit to. And we are enforcing state law, because right now it's against state law for retaliations, but there's no enforcement. So we actually put teeth into this to where there's enforcement and people can be held accountable for what they do.
Have you heard talk of a tenants union being formed here?
I've heard some chatter about it. It's something I would definitely appreciate.
A tenants union?
I've heard chatter. I haven't heard any strong, they're doing it for sure, but I have heard
I
chatter.
just watched a documentary on the tenants union. Was it in Kansas City? maybe?
There is one again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The mental health thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, the mental health hospital, they still haven't announced, the location yet. There were 4 locations, 2 in Wichita, and then there was 1 in Park City, I believe. Maybe there. I couldn't tell you for sure on those two. I think those are where the other two locations were.
We should put it on South Broadway in the middle of Carlisle.
Your car.
I hear there's some cheap land there.
Yeah.
We can put anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's where a lot of our mental health are.
Yeah. Southwest Wichita and then the old Riverside Hospital, I believe are the other two. So they were supposed to announce it a week ago or so, I believe. They put it off. I'm not exactly sure why. That's a county and a state thing more than anything else. So we're helping as far as the education piece. We're helping with the KU Wichita State Hospital or the school that's going to go downtown and help provide nurses. So we're doing a lot along those lines, but the ultimate location of the hospital is going to be a county and a state thing. They were talking about 50 beds. Most of the people who are helping to fund it are like, go ahead and build 100 because there were options for another 50 beds. So hopefully it is 100 and we keep pushing forward. So that way we have people who can help staff it because that's going to be another need that we have.
Do we have any updates, speaking of the mental health hospital, on the whole Lang versus Humankind Ministries
For the MAC?
for homeless or whatever?
No, we are looking at locations for the MAC. It's been 3 or 4 different locations, including the South Broadway, the church there along South Broadway. I couldn't tell you for sure where they're leaning right now, but they're gonna come back with recommendations. So we're also we're working with our partners at the state as far as the additional 20 million or so. They got a big pot of money. They are all showing that they want to do something and work with us. So we're still overcoming some of the funding issues, but for the most part, we have our funding identified for it. So no news yet, news yet on that.
But Lang's still moving forward and Humankind's looking at closing down some streets to create a campus.
That's what their current plans are. I think a lot of what they want to do is also in anticipation of possibly getting the location. So I'm not sure what the plans will be after we decide the location and what to do with the MAC. But that's their plans. That's outside of us. They can follow through on that if they want.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So I have no new news as far as that goes with those two. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Supposed to snow this weekend?
Friday.
Yeah, we're just gonna be inundated.
Yeah, yeah. So God bless our city workers that go out there and freeze their butts off for us. And
I have a major complaint about that. They plow the street.
Your driveway.
And then it freezes. I'm gonna go out there with a pickaxe and break it up.
You're the man.
You gotta leave my neighborhood, they don't fly.
I wish I could stop.
Just for fun,
Month and a half ago.
Yeah, but everybody, be safe out there, please. You know, it's gonna be cold out there, so bundle up and let's always check on our neighbors and check on each other, make sure everybody's doing well.
Just for fun, I get the elms and the oaks confused. One or the other, the one first to the south, the old 1920s tourist cabins have been raised and it's just dirt now.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, go ahead, that
And
was.
Jared seconds that, so.
I think everybody said that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say-
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I don't know what's gonna go in there, but right now it's dirt and that's cool. And it's pretty shabby.
Location for March.
Where's that?
For March?
Just north of MacArthur on the west side.
Oh, it is gonna be in the water.
That old tourist cabin in there.
It's 3 months
Pretty shabby.
So you're to change.
Let's stop.
Right.
So let's stop.
For 3
Well,
Right now, it's at the water center.